So welcome to our new section here. We're going to talk about now that we've captured traffic in Wireshark, we need to use the dissection tools and use the tool for what it's made for, right? It's a protocol dissector. So let's talk first about the interface and what it looks like. Up here you have the summary window, and what this shows is all the packets starting from the very first packet all the way down to the very last packet. You can scroll and you can see that there's a lot of traffic in this PCAP here. You can click on a particular packet and it changes the lower frames or the lower windows about how that what data shows up. So the second frame, the next one here, is our protocol tree window. And we talked a little bit about this at the very beginning of the course, but I want to go into a little more detail here. You can see that each layer of the OSI model is represented here. So here we can open up and we've got our MAC address information, and you can see this is a 3-com address, source information. So you can drill down into these layers here and pull out some really interesting stuff to source and destination IP addresses here. And then you get into your TCP, and you've got your source port number and the sequence number for the packet. Lots of interesting details. And then finally, this is this is the payload of the packet. What was the packet really meant for? This would be your application layer data. And this one, not really that interesting, but it's an IRC packet and gives you kind of some information there. Now the bottom window here is the data view window, and this shows the hexadecimal representation of every packet. And you can actually click on things like, so here I'll click on this right here, the prefix, and when you click on that, it highlights what part of the packet that is represented by. So you can see that it truly is a protocol dissector, in that it'll give you where in that packet everything kind of sits. Now what we're looking at here is we're looking at the default layout of Wireshark. When you install it, this is what it comes with. But you can change it up, and you can get some really cool information by just changing the view. So to change the layout of Wireshark, what we'll do is we'll go to Edit, and we'll open up Preferences. And here we've seen this window before, right? First thing we can do is we can go to Layout. By default, you've got the 1, 2, 3 packet layout, and you've got the first pane, our packet list or our summary window. The second pane is the packet details or the protocol tree, and third, the packet bytes. So you can arrange it any way you'd like, and kind of look at some of how it's viewed, right? Alternating row colors and so on and so forth. Columns. This is what you see as far as the default columns that are in Wireshark. Now you can add or remove some of these things. So say you wanted to add a new column, right? And we'll do, let's find a good one here. About source port, right? We want to add source port, and we can do, and now if we hit apply, it's got to reprocess all the packets. But now we've got, next to info, we have source port here, and we can filter on, or not filter, but we can reorganize based on the source port. So you can add kind of any field you'd like within that. The next thing I want to show you is time. So each of these packets has a timestamp, And you can change this. Right now, by default, what we have is seconds from the very first packet. So you can see that our very first packet is 0, and it just increments from there. If you go to View, Time Display Format, you can change it to date and time of day. You can change it to just the time of day, seconds from the epoch, all kinds of great things. So I'm going to change it to time of day. And you can see now it changes. And this is a kind of an old PCAP, but it does the job of representing what we're trying to do, what we're trying to show you here. Now the other thing you can do is set a time reference. So if you right click on a packet, you can set the time reference. And yes, we do want to switch to seconds from. And what we've done here basically is we've said this packet here is now the very first packet that comes in, and we want you to start counting up all the packets from here on out. And this is really helpful if you have an activity, you see activity that within this PCAP that you want to kind of map out a timeline of what happened, and you want this to be kind of your time 0. This is when the incident started, and go on so forth from there. So that's how you would set that time reference. And I'm just gonna untoggle it here just to show you one further thing with time. You can right click and you can do time shift, and you can shift all packets by a certain number, right? So by default it takes the time reference from the computer that is actually doing the capture. So if, for example, you have a machine that normally sits on the East Coast and you take it over to the West Coast and you do a packet capture, it's going to capture in East Coast time, but you want to see it in West Coast time. So you could add 3 hours to every packet here, or some of these other packet shifting, time shifting functions here. All right. Last and final thing I want to show you in the interface is how to merge packet captures. We talked about in the previous section when you were capturing, if you do a very large packet capture, you may want to break those PCAPs up into smaller chunks. Say, you want a new PCAP every 100 megabytes or every gigabyte. But say you need to merge a couple of packet captures together. You open up the first one like we've done here, and you would go File, Merge, and now you're going to pick another one. And I've got this Telnet PCAP here that I'm going to open up. And now you can see that it's added that Telnet data to this, and we can then take that and you can go Save As, and you could save it as an entirely different PCAP file. So that's kind of a brief overview of what the interface is like and a few of the really cool functions on managing packets. In the future lectures, we're going to actually talk about doing some filtering and some really cool advanced functions of Wireshark.